need to make sure that I am on LinkedIn. That's you. Oh. Okay, good.
Linda, don't remember to drop that PDF in there for me.
Okay.
So I should be able to see this streaming live in LinkedIn as well?
Yeah, and they can hear you too.
Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I know we're streaming live on LinkedIn as well. And of course, it's good to see some of you in the Zoom room with me because it gives me a lot of energy. And I see my good girlfriend watching Bruce.
Yes. Hello, hello,
It's
hello.
so wonderful to see you. So welcome
Same here. Thank you.
to our old friends and Mary, is it Ciampa? Okay, wonderful,
Yes,
excellent. Welcome, welcome. I see Michelle Overton and Kathleen, and I always know that when I do these LinkedIn sessions, oftentimes you're at work, and so sometimes you're just listening in, but that's okay too. I also know that the holidays are here, and so many of you might be trying to shop on your lunch hour or something. But at any rate, we're going to get started. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deborah Owens. I'm founder and CEO of WealthyU, and that's where we teach first generation high earners really how to, women specifically, but how to turn their income into wealth. And so today I'm excited because it's year end, and so I really feel like now's the time for everybody to be prepared for next year by doing everything that they need to do at year end. So I'm going to be presenting my savvy year end wealth secrets so that you don't have any surprises when it comes to April 15th. So welcome, welcome, welcome. In the chat, I always like to start by just asking, you took time out of your busy day and registered for this workshop. Anybody want to share what they hope to learn? And you can do that throughout, and I will be sharing some of your comments as we go along. But I'm going to share my screen and get right into the formal presentation because I know that many of you are busy, 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 and I want to make sure that I stay on tap, stay on time. So good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so accustomed to doing these in the evening. Welcome to our Savvy Year-End Wealth Secrets presentation. Let me just get these slides moving. So I'm going to begin by asking you one question, and that is, in the chat, tell me, what is your highest monthly expense? And I'm going to come back to this question, but in the chat, what is your highest monthly expense? Okay, all right. Oh, yes, Mary, I did check out your site, Women X. So great. I'm glad you're here because you'll learn about my story. Although if you Google me, my life is an open book. Love it, love it. Oh, so Mary says education. Okay, my children. Yeah, that your highest. I guess that's your highest monthly expense. I'm going to challenge some of you guys on that. The other thing I want to share with you is I love giving away gifts, and of course it is Christmas time. So what better time to give a gift? So if you stay to the end, I'm going to have a nice little gift for all of you. So let's talk about who this webinar is for, right? So perhaps you're a first generation high earner like myself, or you may have had a high educational attainment. So how many of you have a bachelor's degree? How many of you have an MD, medical degree? How many of you have an MBA or JD? Just put whatever your educational attainment is in the chat. And some of you may even have several $100,000 in student loans. You may have a negative net worth as a result because you invested a lot in your education. Your retirement savings, even though you're earning a high income, might be low relative to your earnings. And then you could be in one of the highest tax brackets. And many times we don't understand why we are or what to do to reduce that. Okay, so Mary has a bachelor's, Hope has a master's. Good to see you, Hope, one of our WealthyU alums. Michelle Overton, a master's. Okay, you're in the right place. Oh, goodness. MBA, PhD, large student loans from parent loans. How do I reduce them? Well, it is interesting. I'm going to be sharing with you some stories. We've had women who've had 6 figures in student loan debt forgiven. So I'll talk a little bit about that later. And then are you one of those overachievers? Checked all the boxes? Let's see if you can relate to this. College, career, management track, high educational attainment. Perhaps you have real estate investments and a 401k, but somehow you're still in the highest tax bracket. If I described you, put me in the chat. Perhaps you're like me, an entrepreneur. You left a corporate career with cushy benefits to start your own business. You need to know how to create financial security as a business owner. Perhaps your old employer plan is still sitting at your prior employer. And then the question becomes, can you bet on the future growth of your company, and or should you diversify your income and assets? If I described you, or you could be any one of these archetypes that I'm talking about, if you can relate to being in any of these situations, I'll say that, put yes in the chat. Or you could be a late bloomer. So Michelle says yes, Patrice says yes. You left the corporate fast track to start a family. I heard someone saying their biggest expense are their children. I certainly can relate to that. And that as a result of being out of the workforce, you don't have adequate retirement savings. Perhaps you're wondering if you can make up for lost time. And are there investment strategies that can allow you to have enough to retire? So if you're any of these archetypes, if you will, personas, you're in the right place, because that's what WealthyU is about. It's just that this month specifically, I'm talking about year-end tax secrets, because now is the time to prepare. Okay, now's the time to. So Watson says, I have a self-directed IRA account and do not know what to do with the funds. I need to plan for retirement, but you need assistance. Great, Watson, that's exactly why I launched WealthyU, and Watson and I go way back. And WealthyU has really evolved over the years, and I'll be sharing a little bit about that. But here's all I want to say, if you're in a situation. Oh, the other thing I didn't mention, there is a huge trend around gray divorce for women. And many women who are in their 60s who thought they were going to retire are finding themselves with one income. What I do want to say, and we folk at WealthyU, we focus specifically on women. And the reason that we do that, I'll share a little bit about that later. But what I want you to know is I related to all of those situations myself that I just described. And what I learned, and that's what I'm going to be sharing with you, and why I wrote the book Wealth Secrets, is that I had been given the wrong blueprint. And here's what I've learned since launching WealthyU and now coaching thousands of women who built their first 6, 7, and some are multiple 7 figures now, is that most women would already be financially secure or wealthy, but the knowledge of how to turn their income into wealth has been hidden from them. Now, many of you said you have a JD, some of you have an MBA, PhD, bachelor's. And so the question I have for you is, in your formal education, did any of your courses really give you an overview of what you need to do of the financial markets, how they work, and how to turn your income into wealth? Any of your any of your formal education? Hope says absolutely no. Watson says no. And that's really what I want to share with you, is it's what I discovered. Michelle said no way. And to be honest with you, what I discovered really is that you don't learn this through your formal education. Typically, you learn how the financial markets work, how to invest, how to build wealth, strategies for securing your future, and actually creating a legacy. That knowledge typically is inherited. Isn't that interesting? And that's what I learned, and I'm going to share with you exactly how I learned it. Well, the bottom line is I didn't come from wealth. On the left side is a picture of my mother. She is 18 years old, recently married to my father, a sharecropper's daughter, and she would sit in those fields and in the cotton fields in Pineapple, Alabama. And she would dream of the day that she would move far away from there and live a life of that she'd always dreamed of. And as chance would have it, she would meet a young man in the big city, Camden, Alabama, and he was carrying a briefcase, and he said, we'll travel the world. And they did. He joined the Navy. Her first child was born in Washington, D.C. Her second child was born in Honolulu, Hawaii, and they would settle in Detroit. And as many in their era moved to the North for work, and basically they raised 3 more children. She had 5 children, and the picture on the right is me, and that is my high school graduation picture. I'm 17 years old. And I never knew how much I favored or resembled my mother until I put these 2 pictures together. And the fact is that my mother, that woman from Pineapple, Alabama, she poured everything she could into me because she wanted me to live the American dream. And the financial success blueprint that she had seen work was to get a great education, to prepare me. There was dance lessons, there was modeling school, there was piano lessons. They sent me to a private Catholic high school because she wanted to make sure that I had the roadmap for success. Can any of you relate to that? I mean, did your parents really instill in you that you needed to get a great education, corporate career, 6-figure income? Does that sound like the blueprint you were given? Well, that certainly was the blueprint I was given. And the fact is that my parents were married for 33 years, moved back to Honolulu, Hawaii. And after a few years there, my mother had taken an early retirement from Chrysler Auto Company, Chrysler at the time, and they would separate. And I am in my first year of college. And I saw my mother's middle class lifestyle be changed drastically. And so after all she poured into me, I told her, Mom, don't worry about me. I'll be fine. I just want to make sure that you're taken care of. And so as a result of that, I followed that blueprint that she gave me. But what I didn't realize that my mother and the blueprint that I had been given was that of the earner mindset. And that was to get a great job, earn as much as you can, get that 6-figure income, get a big house. But what I discovered is that the wealth blueprint that the wealthy had was an owner mindset. And so I'm going to share with you how I discovered that, right? So I go on and I land eventually at Fidelity Investments. And I had a very fast trajectory from financial consultant to management training to assistant branch manager to branch manager in San Francisco was my first assignment. And then I went on to manage the West Coast for Fidelity. And that's when I learned that I had the wrong blueprint, because most of my time was spent with high net worth, very wealthy clients, with our portfolio managers, really providing them with strategies that I had never heard of, nor had I ever applied. And as a result of that, what I learned, and this is my first picture when I became my first corporate picture. How do you guys like my Farrah Fawcett hairstyle? When I became branch manager and vice president of our Washington, D.C. prototype investor center. And that is when I discovered the secrets. But it was also the point at which I wanted to share those secrets with the world. And so I went on, or not with the world, but with other people like me who were the first in their families to achieve a level of financial success that their parents had always dreamed of for them. And so I had quite the journey in how I was now going to share this information with the people who, like me, would never have access to it, because the only way you get access to this information is if you are already high net worth, meaning you have $1 million or more in investable assets. And I thought that to be odd. And Fidelity was very, very supportive of me and my love of financial literacy. And they literally sponsored my first show on WOL Radio. Kathy Hughes, now I think she's chairman emeritus of Urban One Television. When I met Kathy Hughes, she had one radio station. But from there, I decided that I wanted to share it with more people. And as you can imagine, once I left WOL and then went to WEAA, which is an NPR affiliate in Baltimore, they no longer wanted to sponsor. And so I went on, and I've had quite the journey trying to share this information in a way that others could internalize themselves and achieve some level of financial success. So that's me, first radio station, WEAA. I'm sitting at the board. Then I write my first book. I start touring and doing workshops, and I for the National Association of Securities Dealer, which is now FINRA, and I'm approached to write my first book, and it's Confident Investing, a wealth building guide for women. And in that book, I poured everything that I knew, all the technical know-how. And then I get a call from Cheryl Martin, who was then anchor of BET News, who says, guess what? Bishop Jakes wants you to tour with him on the God's Leading Ladies Tour. And that's actually my introduction, to God's Leading Ladies. And we toured Coliseums, Philadelphia, North Carolina. And I said, surely this is the way that I'm going to get this information to people, and they're going to be able to apply and get these insights and the secrets of how to build wealth, of what the wealthy have access to. So then I write my next book, A Purse of Your Own, published by Simon & Schuster. We do a national tour, and I say, okay, now we're going to start purse groups all over the country. And we started about 1,400 of them. That's my first purse group, which launched in Baltimore. And you can see Kelly Lynn was an anchor in Baltimore. She's now in DC, and a few of my other good girlfriends. But this is over 10 years ago, right? Surely this was the way to get this information out and apply it. But what I learned from that is, even though over 1,400 groups started, and the goal was to have them read one chapter of the book and apply the information that they learned, because there wasn't a leader in that group. And this information, can be off-putting and is anxiety producing, right? That falter. And so I'm racking my brain trying to understand. This is me being interviewed by Kate Baldwin on CNN for that same campaign. Surely there has to be a way to help women, because rather than, that's right, Mary, there's so much emotion when it comes to finances, no kidding you. And so after writing several books, touring the country, it was finally when when we launched WealthyU, which is now in its current form 7 years old now, and began to provide a coaching curriculum and community, that everything changed. And now thousands of women are building their first 6- and 7-figure investment portfolios, because they now have the right blueprint. And so over those years, literally forming trial and error, Now we have women transferring from earner, making the transformation from earner to owner, following this roadmap, which we support them with coaching, community, and curriculum, and their levels to it. And the first level is a financial awakening and understanding that you really do have the wrong blueprint. The blueprint we were given was the middle class mindset. But in order for all of us to really secure our futures, but not just for us, but our families, we need the right blueprint. And so, an example of this, in my mind, could I transfer this knowledge? Could someone apply it and achieve success? Well, here's Belinda, who is featured in my newest book, Wealth Secrets, where I've captured all of these transformations. When I met Belinda, in fact, she was in one of my first purse groups at my church. She had delegated all her investments to an advisor without understanding his recommendations. She was 20 years into her career. Let me go back because I want to tell this story. And was not on track with her retirement savings. Her personal rate of return was less than 5% and barely growing each year. And her advisor had actually transferred a lot of her funds into an annuity that had high fees, high surrender fees, and locked her in to a pretty low rate. Not only that, but Belinda was in the highest income bracket and had a high tax burden. Well, since joining WealthyU, Belinda's learned how to analyze her portfolio. She increased her personal rate of return on her investments. She achieved 7 figures in her retirement savings, established a brokerage account and built an investment portfolio, established a backdoor IRA, and created an estate plan. And then one morning, and I love getting these texts, they're all different because everyone's financial journey is different. But I got this text one morning and it said, Deborah, I learned I was one of those with a 7-figure retirement account. I cannot thank you enough. If only I had taken a class from you sooner. Who knows what that account would be, but it is as it should be. But what I want everyone who's listening to this, no matter where you're listening to me from, whether you're watching me live on LinkedIn or YouTube, I think we're streaming there as well. The only difference, the only thing standing between Belinda and the financial success she desired and deserved was really that knowledge, which, like so many, like myself included, us are not privy to. But once we are privy to, and in WealthyU, you learn how to analyze, optimize, and maximize. That's what we call it. You learn how to analyze and research your stocks. You learn how to analyze and research your investments in your retirement accounts. You learn how to evaluate an investment just like an investment professional would. And that is because even if you're delegating your investments to someone, you need to be able to monitor and absolutely understand if the recommendations that you are being given are aligned to your goals. That's right, Mary. Once you have the knowledge, you have the agency. I love that word, to make smart decisions. And it's so interesting. We, on Wednesday nights, we do a WealthyU wind down, and many of the women in our community are there, and we love to share their wins. And one of our recent members, she just joined in July, but she negotiated an increase of 30% of her income, and she had been sitting in a role for many, many years. Once she made that shift to a wealth mindset, it's just amazing. In her own words, the confidence that she had. And she said, the old me would have accepted anything. The new me knew I needed to negotiate. And Mary, I love that you said agency, because that's exactly what she has now. Agency. She can walk in a room differently and know that she has everything she needs to be everything that she needs to be. And so this blueprint really is now responsible for so many women, so many first-generation high-earning women learning tax advantage strategies that help them turn their income into wealth. And the reason that I'm double-clicking on tax advantage strategies, Now, it's because it is the year end, and this workshop is really about you understanding what you need to do to make sure that you've positioned yourself in the right way. And by the way, Anita, if you could post now, I put together a year-end Wealth Secrets tax checklist, just so that all of you understand the things that you need to do before year end, and in some cases, before April 15th. Okay, so a lot of the strategies that I'm sharing with you are out of my book, Wealth Secrets. And in each chapter, there's a story of a woman in WealthyU who applied the concepts that I'm sharing with you right now and took ownership of their financial success and accelerated their financial growth. But the one secret that I'm going to click on today is specifically the first secret, and it's the most important of all, and that's making the shift from earner to owner. And why is that important? Because like many of you, I did everything I was told to do, right? And yet, the more money my husband and I made, it's like the less I felt we kept, because we kept ending up in higher and higher tax brackets because I had the earner mindset. I just felt like if we can earn multiple six figures and we can keep earning more money, all our problems would be solved. But what I learned by being but what I learned by being with high net worth people is it's not how much money you make, it's how much you keep. And so as a result, what I didn't realize was that all the income we were earning was being taxed at the highest rate. So now I want to go back to, I asked at the beginning of this workshop, and if you're just joining us, we're just getting started. What was your highest expense? Mary, you said education for my children. Hope, you said mortgage. But guess what? Your highest expense are taxes. And I would challenge anyone to tell me that is not true. But the reason you don't realize it is because those taxes are typically being withheld. But I don't know about you, agree or disagree. If you were to really think about what your greatest expense is, it's your taxes, right? So what I want all of you to understand is that it's not enough to just earn more money. You have to learn how to be strategic. And one of the things I talk about in the book is earner versus owner, right? And what I want you all to understand is that we're earners, and what we don't realize is that it's a job that has an income, right? It pays us an income. And it's taxed typically at the highest rate. You know, a lot of us go from earner to solopreneur. And what we don't realize, and I did it when I first went into business, I was just creating a job for myself. I had no systems, no staff, no team. And so here as a solopreneur, I'm really working as hard as I can. And in many cases, I was not in LLC or structured properly. So all of that money just went to the bottom line of our tax return. But you know, when you make this shift to owner, a couple of things happens, that you create a system and that creates cash flow and value. And also, and I'll talk about this a little later, you, rather than being taxed on that income and paying your expenses afterwards, as an owner, you're able to turn those expenses into tax deductions, right? And when I saw this chart, I thought, it made me think about all of my wealthy clients and why they had real estate, limited partnerships, or why they had portfolios that pay dividends, and it's exactly what I think Warren Buffett said. I don't understand why I pay less in taxes than my secretary. Why? Because the tax loopholes in our tax system rewards what? Dividends and capital gains, and are responsible for the biggest losses of revenues to the federal government. But the federal government is incentivizing that behaviors. And so what I would say to anyone is that you must learn how the game is played and help it to work in your favor. And that's why it's important for you to learn how the financial markets work, learn how to invest, learn how to build a portfolio so that you can have a tax advantage strategy. Is this making sense to you guys? If it is, in the chat, let me know. Right? I mean, I think the most important thing you need to understand is how you need to structure your investments and your income and use tax advantage strategies. Am I saying everyone should become an entrepreneur? No, I am not saying that everyone should become an entrepreneur. I am saying that you need to understand the tax law and how it works. And so, furthermore, right, capital gains and dividends are taxed more favorably, but also for the earner, I mean, this is literally all we get to deduct, right, is our mortgage interest and our property taxes, right? Oh, and your charitable donations, which is something that you need to do before year end. I want to encourage all of you, go through your household, and if there's anything that you can give away so that you can get a deduction, make sure you document it, but you need to do all of these things before December the 31st. But as an owner, you get to turn, so earner, you pay your taxes and then you pay your expenses. Whereas owner deducts all of the expenses first and then pays taxes on them. So that is one of the benefits too. Many of the, and I'm going to share some, I'm going to actually share some stories on how our members in WealthyU made the shift from earner to owner and some of the changes that they made in their own portfolio. So this is Sharon. She's also featured in our book, Wealth Secrets. Return to school to obtain an MBA. Many of us do that, self-financed our education. So what do you end up with? A lot of student loans, several degrees, but not being fully compensated for that education and experience and investing. Her net worth basically did not reflect her lifetime earnings. But after joining WealthyU, she increased her net worth. She created real estate investment property from an existing home, went on to invest in real estate and limited partnerships. But the bottom line is she reduced her tax liabilities using tax advantage strategies. And so for many of you, you don't have to go out and become an investment, a real estate investment or a landlord. But one of the things anyone who wants to use tax advantage investments can do is they can invest as a limited partner, invest with others who are more knowledgeable, and then you get to use some of the depreciation and the benefits that real estate provides. This is Stacy. Stacy's featured in the first book, the first chapter of the book. High earners, she has 6 figures plus in student loan debt. Her investments in her 401k, low investment returns, no investments outside of her 401k, and a high tax liability. But since joining WealthyU, talk about watching, you talked about, we've probably had $500,000 in student loan forgiveness through the PSLF in our members in WealthyU. I'm not going to take credit for that. One of our members, her name is Dr. Tisa Silver Kennedy. And by the way, if any of you have student loan debt and have worked for nonprofit organizations, you need to connect with Tisa. Anita, I did not introduce Anita. I will, but Anita is a WealthyU ambassador. If you could put Tisa's website in the chat, it's just Tisa Silver. I think it's tisasilver.com. That's what it is. This is Zena. Zena is an entrepreneur. When I met her, she's actually does some of my PR, solopreneur, low performing investments, limited accounting systems and investments, and her network did not reflect her lifetime earnings. Graduate, and she'll tell you we're both from Michigan. She's U of M, but my go blue, as they say, but my husband's a Spartan, go green. At any rate, since joining WealthyU, hired as a CPA, deployed financial management systems, consolidated her investments, and deployed automatic account building tactics and reduced tax liabilities using tax advantage strategies. Zena is also featured in Wealth Secrets as well. And so I want to make sure that we're on time. I just want to double click all of the information that I'm talking about now is in your Savvy Six Secrets checklist. So what do you need to be doing now? You need to make sure that you've contributed the maximum to your 401k. I'll talk a little bit about what those contribution limits are in a minute. You have only until December 31st to do so. If you have an HSA, a health savings account, a flexible spending account, a defined benefit plan, right, where you can contribute on over and above what your 401k is, you have to do that before December 31st. Now, for those of you, you have to make almost $200,000 to not be able to contribute to an IRA. Most of you can contribute to an IRA and then convert to a backdoor Roth IRA is what they're called. And you have until April the 15th to do it. But I would say if you're going to invest in your IRA, that you need to go ahead and make that contribution. And then on January 1, guess what? You can make your next contribution on January 1 for 2023 and start taking advantage of the tax advantaged opportunities that those accounts provide. If you have 1099 income, any kind of or 1099 income, or you're an LLC and you're let's say you don't have any employees, then a great vehicle for you is the SEP IRA or establishing a solo 401k, which will allow you to go beyond what the SEP IRA will allow you to do as well. I think something that people often forget is the defined benefit plan that you can set up, and your company, if you're an S corp, also actually pay for it. And of course, let's not forget the charitable deductions, whether it's to your church or your favorite charity, as well as all of those things around your home. If you haven't used it in a year, then probably makes sense to contribute it to someone who can get better use of it and also get a tax deduction. Now, the other thing is tax loss harvesting. Now, what is that? That means that if you've got any investments in your portfolio that did not perform, sell them at a loss and then offset. You can sell them at a loss and offset any gains that you have. That's another high net worth strategy that many use. So, I mean, I can go on and on and on, but I did share all of the contribution limits are in here. In 2023, you can put up to $6,500 in an IRA if you're under 50 and $7,500 if you're over 50. All of that information is, if I'm not mistaken, in the handout that I gave away. But the point that I want to make is these are all the strategies that high net worth individuals use that minimize the amount of taxes that they pay, ultimately having more in your pocket to keep so that you can put that money to work and that money can grow on your behalf. So again, here are all the contribution limits for retirement plans. They have continued to increase significantly. In 2023, you will be able to put over $30,000 in a 401k, maximum if you're over 50. If you have, if you're self-employed and you have, and your employer is benefiting, is contributing on your behalf, the maximum is $66,000. But there are all kinds of strategies that you can use to take advantage. Now, I know some of you may be looking at some of these numbers and saying, as Mary did, listen, I'm funding kids' college educations and that sort of thing. All I'm going to tell you, it doesn't matter what amount. The key is that you put something and get it started and keep moving. And here's the good news. Even if you're, what do I want to say, mature, you still have time to save. I love, love, love this chart. Listen, that first line says you started at 50, but you put the maximum in of $30,000 a year until the age to maximum retirement age. You can still get up to 7 figures. But let's say you're under 50, or you can only put the maximum of 22.5 in. You can still get to 7 figures after 50. This is just $1,000 a month per year. You can get to $500,000. I will tell you, we have some amazing stories of women who started late, and they're in the book Wealth Secrets, which, by the way, for those of you who are still here, you're going to get a copy of my ebook of Wealth Secrets, sharing how women have been applying these concepts that I'm speaking of and having some amazing transformations using this blueprint. So, what is the Legacy Wealth Blueprint? It's a transformational wealth blueprint that provides access to those same high net worth strategies or secrets that I learned in my career in financial services with global financial firms, and watching how high net worth individuals use these strategies to their advantage. And they're not taught to us because either we don't already have $1 million or investable assets, or no one within our family was able to share this knowledge with us. So the question becomes this, is if you're ready to learn these same strategies, one of the things I love to do is to offer you an opportunity. I think watching, you said that you wanted to learn, you needed to plan. Listen, I'd love to just share with you if you're on track, off track, and what you can do to accelerate your financial growth. And listen, the only thing I want to say, so just take a picture of this QR code. It'll go right to a calendar, and you can set up. This is not a hard sell anything, but if you want to learn about how, if you want to get access to these secrets and this knowledge, and then learn what we call them opportunity levers, what lever you need to pull in order to accelerate your financial growth and apply some of these strategies and keep more of what you earn, then I just want to encourage all of you to set up your own wealth ignition session. Well, over Zoom, we'll just kind of we have a calculator, and it'll give you a sense of if you're off track, on track, what you need to do to get on track. How does it work? Step one, first thing I'm going to we'll talk about is, do you have that mindset, and how to make the shift to a wealth mindset and start making decisions that really work in your favor. Then I'm going to show you exactly what your financial freedom factor is like based on where you are right now. If you don't do anything, what's going to happen? If you change some things, what could happen? And the most important thing I want you to know is you already have everything you need to be everything you need to be. Typically, there are just a few things that need to be tweaked in order for you to achieve the level of financial success that you desire. And I'll be honest with you, so many of the stories of the women that you're going to read about in WealthyU, the most impactful thing they did was actually learn how to manage their investments and not be passive. And by learning how to be an active participant in their investment strategy, they increase their returns and also the results. And if they can do it, you can do it too. And then finally, step 3 is your legacy wealth blueprint. We call it your 7-figure blueprint. For some of you, based on how much you're earning, it could be multiple 7 figures. But the key is to get started and to have the right blueprint. So again, we'll also put the, Anita, if you could put the link in the chat. And now, do I have time? I wanted to be respectful of everyone's time. I'll open it up for questions. I'm gonna open it up for questions, but one of the things you have to understand about WealthyU and our process is what I want to know from all of you is based on everything that I covered, and I know I didn't have a lot of time, right? What is the one thing that you could apply that could make the biggest impact in the chat, right? What is the one thing that you learned that if you applied it, because all I want you to know is it's not all the things, right? Like everybody's situation is different. And literally, if we find the one opportunity lever that you need to pull and you focus on that, everything changes, right? And so what I'm going to do now is I want to introduce my one of my team members, Anita Jenkins. And if you have any questions, she's going to be reaching out to you as well. Or I want to encourage you to get on my calendar before year end. Okay. And it's not hype. I want you guys to know, right? It's just simply going to be a conversation. Now, Anita, if you could just introduce yourself. Anita was sitting right where you were, all of you were at one point. And I'll allow her to share her role and how WealthyU has impacted her own life.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for investing this time, trying to quench that thirst for knowledge, as I was, like Deborah alluded to. I was the same way, trying to get this information, trying to get the pieces of the puzzle together, buying this book, buying that audio. I was in mortgage banking at that time. That was like about 4 or 5 years ago when I came into WealthyU. So, but I couldn't get the pieces of the puzzle together properly until I had the proper blueprint to get me on the right road where I needed to go, because it's not a one size fit all when you're doing this type of thing. So I just want to thank you all for being here today. And, after I got empowered and everything that I learned here in WealthyU, and I'm still learning, I'm still growing so much, I was able to take control and not be finicky, not be nervous, and being able to invest and make these decisions with confidence and knowing, the risks that are involved, but take a risk that's a calculated risk. So I feel very comfortable with it now. And thanks to WealthyU, I have been able to increase my rate of return. When I first came in, Deborah asked me what was my rate of return. I didn't even know what that was. So I had to go all the way back to come up to where I am now. So I'm just so grateful. And I know that I've done this, and I know everyone here today under the sound of my voice can do the same thing too. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Anita. So Anita is a WealthyU ambassador. And if you come into one of our programs, she becomes your member success advisor. And literally everyone on the WealthyU team has been through the program themselves. But what I want all of you to understand, that the most valuable asset that you're going to gain is not money. Yes, we want to be successful, but the most valuable asset you're going to gain is the knowledge of how to build wealth, because that's the goal for WealthyU. for you to get the insight and the knowledge that the very wealthy have, so that now you have that inherited knowledge to pass on to your family, right? So it's no longer a secret. That's really the goal. And the reason I say that, that's interesting. When we were prepping for today's presentation, I was asking Anita, oh, how are you doing? You get your Christmas shopping done? She says, no, I'm giving away stock. So if my kids are going to get anything on Christmas Day, they're going to open up their phones and we're going to go into their Stash App account, which is one of the apps that we encourage you to get started with if you want to start with individual stocks in WealthyU. And they're going to get shares of stock. And you don't know how that made my heart sing, right? Because that is the point. It's not about us, right? Like, we've got less time in front of us than we do behind us, for most of us, right? And so if we're going to do this right, I have a real sense of urgency around it. Our goal is to help 1 million women get to $1 million into investable assets. It is not about the money, it's the mission. And the mission is to empower you with the knowledge so that you can then be the catalyst for intergenerational wealth. You know, the other point I didn't make, it's really interesting, even for the wealthy, within like 4 generations, that wealth that was built is gone, right? So you can build it in a generation, you can lose it in a generation. But wouldn't it be amazing if what you were your inheritance, right? Or not your inheritance, or what your legacy was one in which it was you passing on the most valuable asset of all, and that's the knowledge of how to build it, right? How to preserve it and how to pass it on. That is the goal of WealthyU. And with that, we're right at 2 o'clock. I just really want to encourage all of you, if you to join our WealthyU community. We have a free WealthyU community on Facebook every week. All you got to do is Google it. Google my name, it'll come up, or go to WealthyU.com. Just go to WealthyU.com and access to everything, that all the tools, all the resources that we have. And by the way, look in the chat, because as I promised, for those of you who stayed to the end, a copy of the ebook, Wealth Secrets, is in the chat for you to download. And we'll also, if you registered for this and you are in Zoom, we'll also make sure that we email a copy as well. So to all of you, are there any questions though? Any questions? You can raise a hand and ask it if you'd like. Outstanding. Well, have a wonderful holiday, everyone. May you end this year strong and apply some of the concepts that I discussed today. And may you have a prosperous new year. And with that, I'm going to bid you all farewell. And thank you so much for joining us today for our Savvy Wealth Secrets.
Yeah, this was excellent. Thank you very much, Deborah.
Oh, thank you, Watson. It's always a pleasure to see you, and all the work that you are doing, Watson. Just amazing. To just have watching your growth as well. So
yeah, thank you for your growth. I remember I was at your first launching also.
Yes, that's
I
exactly.
was at a Savvy book, so I remember those days when we were together. But anyway, I've already scheduled my appointment, so I'll be seeing you soon.
Well, I can't wait to chat with you.
Okay.
Everyone have a great evening,
Mhm.
and stay tuned. We'll have more programming coming out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Anita and the rest of you. Happy holidays. Okay. Bye-bye.